I have a pretty sad video today, and it revolves around the demise of one of my vehicles, a vehicle that I held very dear, a vehicle that I drive every day, a vehicle that I just rely on to just always work, to always be there for me. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with my Toyota Tacoma. It's a 2003, it's a TRD off-road package. It's black, it has the painted fenders and bumpers. It's a V6. It's just a really cool truck. It's the proper size truck. Since it's a 2003, it's not very big, and I've just been driving it as my daily vehicle. It's not the most fuel efficient thing in the world, but it always starts up, it always works. Well, that was true up until about 3 weeks ago. This is its current state today. This is just gut-wrenching. So 3 weeks ago, it was snowing. I was driving my wife to work. Since this is our only four-wheel drive vehicle, we just trust it out in the snow. And really, she doesn't work that far away from where we live. So I was like, yeah, it's no problem. Just drive her to work and I'll come back home. And on my way back home, as I was going through a stoplight, I T-boned a Lexus RX 330. And I'm not one to run red lights, and I was adamant I had the green light as I was going through that intersection. But the other driver said he had the green light. And unfortunately on this truck, I only carried liability insurance, and there were no witnesses, and there were no cameras at the intersection, at least not at first thought. And when the police arrived, they said it's a no-fault accident since they couldn't prove one driver was at fault. So you can imagine how distraught I am with what was basically a perfect condition Toyota Tacoma. Now, let me remind you that this had a replacement frame put on it by Toyota because these are known to have rusted frames, especially by the rear axle. And Toyota replaced the frame with a brand new one on this. It's just a brand new frame. I went through and did everything to this truck, and I covered it in an article I wrote for Jalopnik at the time. And so this thing has been thoroughly gone through. I mean, new suspension, new radiator, new fluids, new timing belt, water pump. I mean, I've only driven it maybe 20,000 miles since doing all of that. And it was basically a perfect condition 2003 Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road. I mean, these trucks, when they do come up for sale, they're very valuable. They are the perfect size truck that a lot of people are looking for, and they're just a do-it-all machine. And I was able to get this for a deal and kind of work on it and make it as nice as it was. But now it looks like this. You can see primary hit was right here in the front right corner. Pushed back the radiator support. The radiator's hitting the cooling fan. It broke the air box and all of those pieces there. It pushed the whole fender apron inward. Basically the whole front structure of the vehicle has been shifted to the right or towards the driver's side. You can see that the hood has definitely seen the brunt of it. The fender's contacting the door. It's very difficult to open the passenger side door. And then the rear cab, very dented rear bed. It's kind of twisted a bit. Thankfully, I was okay. It was probably about a 30 mile per hour hit. The other driver was fine. So I guess thankful for that, but the truck, the poor thing, is very bent up and mangled. I think there's something going on with the front suspension too. Definitely bent tie rods or something. But it'll start up, but the radiator fan's hitting the radiator, and you really can't drive it. It can just be moved a few feet back and forth, but basically get it onto a tow truck and off. But otherwise, it's unusable in its current state. And so I carried liability insurance on this truck just because I didn't think it was worth very much. I was like, well, I have a dash camera. It should be able to catch anything if I do ever get into a wreck and prove that I wasn't at fault. So again, I had a dash camera installed in this truck. And at the time of the accident, the dash camera wasn't recording. It stopped recording 5 minutes before the collision occurred. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Luck or misfortune, whatever you want to call it. My only bit of evidence that I may have had to say I wasn't at fault was gone. And I was at the mercy of the insurance companies. And of course, if you only have liability insurance, you're hoping the other guy's insurance is going to say, yeah, he was at fault, but they're never going to do that unless you have proof that the other guy was at fault. Yeah, I was basically screwed. But once I realized how helpless the situation I was in really was, it kicked me into full-on detective mode. I wasn't going to go down without a fight. I wasn't going to let this truck just die in vain. So I started looking around for surveillance cameras. I started asking the city, do you have cameras at that intersection? And they came back and said, no, we don't have cameras at the intersection. But I didn't give up then. I then went around to neighboring businesses, and I saw that some had surveillance cameras, and I happened upon one that happened to catch the collision on tape. And you notice that I'm not saying accident, because there's no such thing as a car accident. There's always someone at fault, and I was determined to prove that in this case. So here's the video that I got. The camera is pointed at the four-way intersection where the crash occurred. The white truck that passes through is going the same direction I will be going when I come into frame shortly. That road is a 6-lane main thoroughfare marked for 45 miles per hour. The intersecting road is a low-traffic business access street. You can see the white Lexus RX 330 pull up at the intersection. It's clear at this point they have a red light because of traffic flow. The car that pulls up next to the white Lexus makes a risky right-hand turn in front of me. I imagine the white Lexus interprets this other car's movement as a green light, and thus it starts to enter the intersection. I'm traveling about 30 miles per hour in an attempt to stop and swerve, but avoidance is impossible. Traffic on the road I was traveling on continues through the intersection just a few seconds after the crash, implying I had the green light. However, if we watch just a bit longer in the clip, we can see the golden bit of evidence that shows I had the green light. About a minute after the collision, the other street's light turns green. If we compare the moment of the crash against a minute later when the other road had the green light, we can clearly see that the white Lexus did not have a green light. Just to dispel any counter theories in the comment section, this light is a simple ball type without any sort of turn arrows. This means when one side gets the green, the other side does as well. They are never out of sync with one another. So now that I've got the other guy's insurance to accept liability, I now have to take the truck to a repair center so that an estimate can be made. Now I'm not expecting this thing to actually get repaired. I'm fully expecting it to get totaled out. You know, insurance, I'm sure, views this as a $8,000 truck, even though auction results and current private sale ads point to this being more of a $16,000 to $18,000 truck. It only had 137,000 miles, replacement frame. I mean, just basically the Tacoma you want to own, the Tacoma that brings high dollar amounts. So I'm going to have to fight for that value, no doubt, with the insurance, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be determined a total loss. And hopefully look for a replacement. Maybe I'll take on trying to repair it myself. If they total it out, I might buy it back. We'll just see. A lot of things are up in the air, but at least the scales of justice are starting to turn my way. Just a week ago, I was very distraught and thinking I was just out this truck and I'd have to figure out how to fix it on my own accord with my own money. So very fortunate that I found a video that proved I was not at fault. Stay tuned for updates on my Tacoma. Sorry for the a little bit downer of a video, but I think you guys would appreciate seeing how easily, how quickly something can go from right to wrong. And maybe there's some lessons to be learned here about dash cameras and insurance coverage. So definitely keep you all updated as I learn more on this one. Until then, we'll see you guys again next time.